This is code.org. We're going to be working on for loops today. Super critical, and it's a really easy way to make code more reusable, more customizable, and better. Let's dive in. This is code.org. That's what we have here. Collect the nectar from each flower using the fewest blocks possible. Alright, so we have flowers. Oh yeah, 1 out of 5. Okay, so right now when I hit run, nothing happens. Let's start throwing down some blocks. I'm going to head to action. Looks like we need to move forward, of course, so I'll drop a move forward. Now, I can step to see that 1 block run. But what would we do next? We don't need help yet, but amount of nectar. So this flower has a 1 on it, and as we've come to learn, that means it has something for us to use. What do flowers have? Well, we know they have nectar. So move forward, get nectar. Looks like I'll have to move forward a few times. So I'm going to go ahead and just drop, move forward, move forward, move forward in. And then in between each of these, I'm going to throw a get nectar. Now, I have not tested this yet, and the great thing about code is you can be wrong a ton. I'm just trying stuff out right now. So I'm over on blocks. That's fine. We're just testing. Okay, so I know this all works, but we're still over on blocks. This is when I look for patterns. So I go move forward, get nectar, move forward, get nectar, move forward, get nectar, move forward, and get nectar. So I'm doing this 4 times in a row. And really, I need to do it another time. I didn't go to the end yet. So we're repeating ourselves. Of course, instead of just repeating ourselves, let's take a look at loops. And we have a few options here. Wall path is ahead, so I bet that works as long as there's path ahead of me. And at this wall, is there path ahead anymore? Nope. So as long as there's path ahead of me, this should loop. We could do that. We can also try what we know, repeat. Maybe I'll do this one first. We could also do wall path ahead. That would work too. Now I said I needed to do this 5 times because there's 5 spaces, and I can get rid of this extra stuff. Now everything that goes into this pink mouth thing is going to loop. So, and I can show you, step. Repeat 5 times. Move forward, check. Now I'll get the nectar. Check. Then what? Hit the bottom of the pink mouth, go back, forward, nectar. And we did it. Onward. Let's see what we have here. Write the code to help the bee collect all the nectar. You will need lots of blocks for this challenge, but we'll learn an easier way in the next puzzle. So I have 8 blocks in use, and I can use up to 18. Let's see what this does. Oh, nothing, because counter isn't equal to something, and we have seen counter before. It's a variable. I'm going to head over to math, and I guess I'll start counter at 1. Now, we have a few options here. What do we want to put in these? Well, if they already gave me this variable counter, right, I could go ahead and still, obviously this fits, 1, repeat 1 time, or 3, right? So that might work there. Now, let's see. We have counter here. We want to change counter. I'm not really sure yet. Why don't we throw some code in here and see what happens? Again, great thing about code, we can try stuff out. Okay? So I'm going to go ahead and step and see what happens. So to start off, I know I have this variable counter, and it is equal to 1. Now, when you think about a variable, such as in math, you might have x plus 2 equals 3. Well, if x plus 2 is 3, then x must be equal to 1. Except here, we say counter is equal to 1 right now. So we're going to move forward, then we hit this repeat counter times. Counter is just equal to 1, so the thing inside of here, nectar, we do once, that goes to 0. We hit the bottom of the pink mouth, it goes back around, but counter was equal to 1. So yep, we did that 1 time, and we fall beneath, and now counter will go up by 1. Well, if counter is equal to 1, once we hit this, counter is now 2, and we go back up here and it says repeat 3 times. Oh yeah, so we got to go back inside with counter being 2. We step forward once. Now we go down here, repeat counter times. Counter is 2, so we get 1 nectar, and I'm going to hit it again, and it's going to repeat get nectar. And then we get 2 nectars. Then counter goes up to 3. We loop back around. We move forward once. We should get 3 nectars. Yep, and then counter goes up. Oh, wait a minute. That's because we haven't done this enough. Now, you might be tempted to put counter here, but that would be an issue, because here, repeat 1 time counter is at first. But then we run through this, and counter goes up by 1. So we would never be done running this thing because counter's always going to be going up. We ask it to go up by 1, so it will then be 2 and it says repeat 2 times. Then it's 3 and it says repeat 3 times. So that can't be counter, but I do know there's 5 flowers. Let's see. Yay! Onward. Here's a new way to write the same code. This code uses a for loop. Look closely and see if you can figure out how it is similar or different to the code you wrote before. You can even swap out the new code below or the old code. It will work the same, yes. So for counter from 1 to 5. What this is saying, guys, and don't let this confuse you, counter was a variable before, it's a variable now. We're saying, okay, for our variable counter, we want it to equal, or counter is allowed to be between 1 and 5. And then we say count by 1. So counter can go up by 1 each time. For counter 1 to 5, count by 1. Then we move forward and we repeat counter times. Well, what is counter to start? It was 1. So we should get nectar once. We then hit the bottom of this pink loop thing, go back to the top, and it says, okay, counter is currently 1. Is 1 between 1 and 5. Well, counter's currently 1, so now we have to count up by 1. Now counter's 2, count by 2. So is counter, which is 2, between 1 and 5. Yeah, 2 is between 1 and 5, so we move forward again. Guess I should be going through this. We move forward again, and we hit this. Repeat counter times. So counter's now 2, so we get nectar once and a second time. We now have done this twice, so we fall out of this inner loop thing. Hit the bottom here of this outer thing, and we say, okay, counter is currently 2, add 1 to it because it says so, so counter is now 3. Is 3 between 1 and 5? Yes, that's true, so we should now move forward again. We hit repeat counter times, well, counter is now 3, so what do we do 3 times? We get 3 nectar, right? Hit the bottom of this, we're done, we did it 3 times, go back up. 3 plus 1 is 4. Is 4 between 1 and 5? Yes, that's true. So we move forward once and we get 4 nectar. Go back around. 4 plus 1 is 5. 4 plus 1 is 5. Is 5 1 to 5? Yep, 5 counts, right? We're including 5. So we move forward once. We should get 5 nectar. And what's about to happen now, guys, we're going to fall out of this after we get nectar. Hit the bottom. We're at 5. So count up by 1 is 6. Is 6 1 to 5? No, that's too much. So we're done. Our for loop's over, and if there was code down here, we'd run it. But, it works just like the other one. Cool. Onward. Video. Next. And here we are. The use of for loops makes this puzzle a lot easier. Kind of. Although they're complicated to understand at first, obviously. Alright, students, make sure you remember that once you do an answer here and hit run, it submits to your teacher, you can't change it. So make sure you think about this. Let's walk through some of it. Alright, when run. For counter, now let's pause right here. What the heck is this word? Counter is the variable. So for the variable from 1 to 4. Counter could be x, right? Like in math, you'll sometimes see 2 plus x equals 7. Okay, well, it's 2 plus x equals 7. X is equal to 5. X is a variable that really represents a number. Counter is a variable here that's going to represent a number from 1 to 4. It's only allowed to be 1, 2, 3, and 4, and that's it. And we're going to count by 1. So we're just starting right now, so counter is going to be a 1. And now we're going to dip in. Keep in mind, this pink mouthish style thing, everything inside of this, everything has to be repeated. How many times? Well, until counter gets to 4, and we go up by 1 each time. So we're starting at 1, we're going up to 4, we go up by 1 each time. So now 1, move forward, plop. Repeat counter times. Well, I just said counter would start at 1, so 1 time. Oh, all right, get nectar. So I'd get 1 nectar. Hit the bottom of this, and it says counter times. Oh, yep, 1. We already did that. We're done. It drops below. Hits the bottom of this and goes 4 counter. Okay, well, counter was just equal to 1. We need to go up by 1. So now counter is 2. Now is 2 in between, or is 2 1 to 4? Yes, 2 is 1 to 4, right? So we'll move forward again once here. Now we repeat this counter times. What's counter now? Well, counter's a 2, so we get nectar once. Hit the bottom, zoop, up one more time for a second time. We get nectar, and there goes that flower. Hit the bottom of this. We've done this 2 times now, so we drop below. Hit the bottom of this. Zoop. Now counter was just 2. Well, we have to count up by 1, so counter is now 3. 3. We can be 1 to 4. Yep, 3 is 1 to 4, so we move forward once, plop. We then have to repeat counter times. Well, when the computer sees counter, it knows 3 times. So I have to get nectar once, hits the bottom of this, zoop, back around, second time, and smack. 2, hits the bottom again, zoop, back around for a third time, and boom, grabs it one more time. And it's now done this, right? We've done that 3 times. It falls below, zoop, back up here, 1 to 4, count by 1. So we were at 3. We can add 1, that's 4 now. Is 4 1 to 4? Yep. So we move forward because it's 4 inclusive. We move forward, repeat how many times? 4 times, we get 4 nectar. Wait a minute, but this only goes to 4. So what's going on? What will happen when you click run? The bee will move forward and collect 1 nectar from flowers 1 to 4. Nope, because it's going to collect how many times? So, bee will move forward and collect 1 nectar. Nope, definitely not. Bee will move forward and collect all the nectar from every flower except 1. Bee will move forward and collect all of the nectar from every flower. No, we left off 5. I'm thinking this. We got it. Onward. All right. Help the bee collect all the nectar. You will find the for loop in here. So we have 1 block out. Yep, run. And we can use up to 9. So 1 out of 9. When, all right, when bee, okay. So they tell us a for loop. I'm going to, before even doing loop, what are we going to need to make this happen? I want to see it just out in the area. So I'm going to ignore the loops. Move forward 1, right? Let's make sure we know what's going on. Then get nectar. And I'm just going to drag out code. Guys, I do this all the time. I do this programming, big adult grown-up stuff. Because it's easier to actually see before doing a loop, before doing functions, all of that noise. So right now I've already made it air, which is great because I know, and it's easy to see. Move forward. Do I want to move forward more than once? No, I need to get the nectar at each flower. Okay? And now I can step through too. Just watching it run. It's real nice. All right, 2 times. Yep. And now what should I do? Well, I'd move forward. How many nectar? And you can kind of see the process here. And this is how I brainstorm. This is how I start getting an idea of what will be needed. So I'm going to pause here. That will get us to flower 3. We got to go to 7, but let's see. So what's the main thing that's happening? Well, we move forward once each time. What changes, though? The getting of nectar. So what loops are really good for is a for loop. We can use the counter variable to use a repeat loop. Words, yikes. To use a repeat loop, right? So let me put this over here too, and let's go ahead and do loops. For counter, I'm going to drop that guy there. And I'm still going to leave these over here. Not forever, but it's going to be helpful. So, what do we want to do? Well, like I said, every time we need to move forward 1. So I know that's going in here. Shop. Each time we move forward 1. So what do we do immediately after we move forward? We got to get nectar. So I'm just going to leave this as is. I'm going to change one thing. We know there's 7, right? And this is 10 right now. So let's go ahead and go boom. I'm taking that down to a 7. And let me hit run. Let's just see. And so what's going on there? Well, we loop through how many times? We get to the end, right? So it will run this code 7 times. The reason it's doing that is what this does is say, okay, for counter, this variable counter is going to be between 1 and 7, and that's inclusive. So it can be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And we got to count up by 1. So right away, I know counter is right now equal to 1, and we're going to start our loop, which is everything inside of this pink, mouthy, boxy thing, right? So we go zoop, we move forward once, we get nectar, hit the bottom, back to the top, zoop. Counter was just 1, right? So now counter, well, we got to go up by 1, is 2. And we check 2, is that between 1 and 7? Yep, it is. And or 1 and 7. So we then drop down, move forward, and get 1 nectar. The problem being is when counter is 2, right? When we have moved forward a second time, how many times do we want to get nectar? 2. And so we can use the pattern we've already been seeing. We could do it like this, repeat 1 time, but they even give us a bit of a hint. Repeat how many times? Counter times. And that's because counter is this variable, and it's going to change each time we move forward. So really it looks like this, but the second time it will do move forward, get counter twice. Hits the bottom after that, goes back to the top, says counter is now 2. I got to count up by 1, so 2 plus 1 is 3. Now is 3 from 1 to 7. Yes, it is. So I move forward just once, but then I hit this repeat, and it goes, oh yeah, I got to do this step counter times. I got to do it 3 times this time. And I get all 3 of those. And it will keep going up. Victory! Onward. Alright, you can also use a for loop to count down. True. Try gathering the nectar by counting down from 5 to 1. And so we see what's going on here, right? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So, we know, I'm going to start by doing no loops. I just want to see what it looks like. I'll throw this down here and we'll talk. Now, this isn't the answer, but it will work. Look. Boom, 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 boom. Obviously, I am way over on blocks. What I would call this is hard coding. I just put out exactly what we need. But now I can see, right, we only move forward once each time, once again. However, what changes is the getting of nectar. So that's what varies. That's what changes. That's where our variable will be used. That's where counter will be used. And so, look, we're moving forward once, but 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, liftoff. So let's take a look. Here's our friendly loop, our friendly for loop. And now, let me put that over there. What am I going to do? Well, right away, I know I have counter, and it's going to be equal from 1 to 10. Well, wait a minute. How many times do we need to go? Well, 5 to 1. Okay, so 1 to 10, what the world? Now, we only need this many spaces. All right. However, right now, this says count by 1. So that's fine. We can count by 1. I'm going to grab and move forward from this. And what will that do? Well, I'll move forward 5 times. There's a few different ways to do this then. Now, our issue is going to be when we collect these. So we already know we're using loops. Let me get rid of all this. We've been using a repeat block. Repeat loops. Repeat counter times. I'm going to drop this here. What will happen? Our first time counter is 1 to 5, so counter's 1. We repeat counter 1 time. So let me have move forward ahead of it, just like we've been doing, and get nectar inside. So we'll get 1 nectar. Our second time through, we hit the bottom, go back to the top, counter goes up by 1. So counter was 1, counter's now 2. We move forward once, we repeat 2, or counter times. We get 2 nectar on 4. 1, 2. And now we hit the bottom of this, it goes back to the top and says, oh wait, counter's 2, we've already done this twice, falls below, hits this, goes back to the top, counter is now 2, go up by 1, counter is now 3, and we go forward once, and then we collect 3. And here's the problem, we're counting up. This only has 2. We're going to hit an error. So we need to go from a large number to a small number. So we could keep counting by 1, but instead of going from 1 to 5, we would want to go from 5 to 1, right? And there's a few ways to do this. I want to point this out. So if you start at 5, what we're doing is starting at 5, and we're only changing our number by 1, so it's counting down for us. So what's another way? Now you might think, and I really like this answer, because actually if you're counting from 5 to 1, is that adding 1? Are we counting by 1? Well, we're counting down. So what if we did a negative 1? That will also work. That makes more sense to me logically. Either one of these is the route you want to take, and they're both correct. Onward. The last number in your for loop is called the increment. Each time the loop is run, the counter variable changes by the value of the increment. That's true. That last number is the increment. Okay, what is it? Oh, this is what they want? Oh no, there's more. Try collecting these flowers by using the increment of 2. Well, this sounds somewhat straightforward. So I know where my for loop is, and it's saying the last number in our for loop's the increment. They must mean this, right? That's the last number. And so try collecting flowers using an increment, the last number of 2. Okay, so now I'm going to go from counter 1 to 10, but I have to count by 2. And if you notice, the first number here is a 1 because counter has to start at 1. And I'm just going to do what we have been doing. I'm going to drop a move forward here. You should be pros at this by now. If you don't understand what I'm dropping in here, make sure you go back and double check yours. Go through some of these tutorials. You really need to get this. It ain't easy. All right, and then get nectar. So counter starts at 1. What's going to happen? We hit this. We run, move forward once. We hit counter. We repeat 1 time because counter's 1. Now, once we do this once, we hit the bottom of this. We fall out because we've done it 1 time. Counter is 1, but we got to count up by 2. So then 1, counting by 2, is now 3. So counter is 3. We should still only move forward once, but we need to repeat 3 times do get nectar. And we do get it 3 times. Once we've repeated this 3 times, right, zoop, 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 we're done. We'll fall below 4 counter from 1 to 10, counter by 2. So 3 plus 2 is 5, and we did it! Victory! You've got this. What should your increment be? Remember, that's the last number. When they say increment, don't let that scare you. Right here, for a counter from 1 to 10, count by 1. This 1 here, that's what an increment is. So what they're saying, they're using technical terms, but what should your increment be? An increment's the amount you change each time for collecting 3, 6, 9, 12, 15 nectar. Well, wait a minute. Don't they kind of give it away? What number are we starting with? 3. And then what number? 6, 9, 12. What are they adding each time? What are they incrementing their number by? Well, 3 to 6 is 3. 6 to 9 is 3. 9 to 12 is 3. So that's a big hint. So I know right away it's probably going to be 3. I want to visualize this first with you, which I do so much. It helps so much. So that is why. So I'm just going to not use a loop and throw it out code. Move forward 1, then what? Turn right, right? And you can always test with step. Boop. And yep. Now what? Okay. No, I'm not stuck. Move forward again, right? And then what? Well, knowing that we might loop this, and it's gonna be like a staircase, I'm gonna go ahead, and when we move forward again, turn right. I just like the format. So forward, right, forward, or is that forward, left, stairs. There we are. Okay, and that should get us here. Now, once we're on this flower, what do we want to do? Collect. And let me get more of this code down, and then I'm going to talk through some of it with you. Now, I can tell you, this is already way too much code. We're way over, but what this is helping me do is seeing what we need. Move forward, turn right, move forward, turn left. Move forward, turn right, move forward, turn left. Get 6. So this is obviously repeating. The thing that's changing that varies that could use counter is our get nectar, like we've seen before. I'm going to plop this in our counter. I'll get rid of this part. As we've discussed, right, we're incrementing by 3, so we would want to go up by 3 each time. The problem is we cannot start with 1. Here's why. Oh, you're not going to see it. We also need to get our repeat in here. Goodbye, right? Just like we've been doing, repeat how many times? However much counter is currently equal to. Now you'll see the issue. We missed it. And that's because counter started at 1. And then we counted up by 3. So starter counts at 1. I want to go through. Step, right? Yep. Count. Counter's 1 right now. So we get 1. Hits the bottom. Says, yep, we counted 1. Goes back to the top. 1 counting up by 3 is now 4. So now we're going to go forward once, turn right once, forward once, left once. Now we have to repeat this 4 times. We get 1, 2, 3, 4 next. And you can tell because that was a 6, now it's a 2. So we not only need to count up by 3, we need to say we got to start at 3. This still doesn't do it though, because we got to go all the way up to 15. So 3, 2, now we should do it. Now keep in mind, I'm going to hit reset. This is not the only right answer. That isn't how code works. Watch. Gonna drag this up, quapow, right? And so what you really need to understand here, guys, is counter is from, and let me hit run on that. Counter starts at 3, it goes to 15. The only stuff that gets repeated by this number is this. This is what's getting controlled. Works just fine either way. So again, counter, this for loop actually only runs, let's see, 3 to 15. So we 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. The entire loop only runs 5 times. Now, how then do we get all of this stuff? Well, we go, and I want to put it back to how it was. That's how I prefer it. We go through 5 steps, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that's what this first part does. The stuff that gets repeated inside of our for loop is controlled by counter. Counter is what's equal to 3, 6, 9, 12, and 15. And that's how we're collecting all the nectar. However, once again, the entire loop is technically only run 5 times. The stuff in this repeat is run more. Anyways, victory. Onward. If your loop is counting down, the increment is subtracted from the counter variable each time through. What should your increment be to collect 15, then 12, then 9, then 6, then 3? So guys, right away, look at this pattern. 15 to 12, what is that? What about 12 to 9? And if you're not the best at subtraction, let's start at 3. If I have 3 and I want to get to 6, how much do I have to add? If I have 6, I want to get to 9, right? So we're moving by 3, except we need to subtract because we start at 15. So before I even do that, though, I want this clear for my steps. We know we have seen steps before, and it's a repeated pattern. I'm going to start there. So here's my B. Obviously, I guess I would need to turn left, forward, right, forward, and let's see, left, forward, right, and always use step. It's super easy to debug this way, forward. Okay, so at least I got the movement going correctly. And then how many steps are there? I don't know, maybe 5, right? So if I use a loop here, I could always do it this way. This is not the way we're gonna do it, but I could, right? Because there's 5 different steps, so I know if I put everything in this pink mouth thing, I'll run through this 5 times. Left, forward, right, forward, hit the bottom, back to the top, I'll turn left again, and I'll be able to get through my stairs, because I'll run all that 5 times in a row. Well, wait a minute. Yep, there we are. So I got through the stairs. Now that's not sufficient, right? We need to collect this. Now how do we do that? We know we want to use a for loop. So I'm going to get rid of my repeat, go into loops, and grab a for loop. Now they gave us some good information. We want to be subtracting. What do we want to start with? It says right here, 15. So from 15, where are we going towards? Well, what's the last number? 3. And what did we say we're going to step by? 3, right? So think about this. Think about this. If we're stepping by 3, okay, so 15, ooh, that's rough, divided by 3 is equal to 5. So our first step will be 15, then we subtract 3, our next step is 12, but, yikes, maybe that was not my best work. But at the end of the day, it will only be 5 steps. Let me show you what I mean. If I am counting by 3 and I start at 15 and I'm going down to 3, well, how many times is that going to run? 15, then 12, then 9, then 6, and then 3. So it will still run 5 times. But now I can use this variable, counter, to pick up how many nectars there are. So actions, loops, repeat counter times. Now where will I want this? I can step through and see. So I'm going to go left, then forward, then right and forward. So I think I'll need it right here. And then what am I going to want to do? I'm going to want to get the nectar. Now the first time through, let's see, I should be able to, actually let me hit run. So now counter, this first time through is 15. So I get all 15, I hit to the bottom, I go through all of this once. Now, once we go through it once, counter comes back up here and it says, okay, counter is 15. I count down by 3 until I get to the number 3. Well, 15 minus 3 is 12. So now counter is 12. I loop through this again, left, forward, right, counter 12 times. So I pick up this 12 nectar, hit the bottom. 12 minus 3 is 9. Go through again, pick up 9. 9 minus 3 is 6. Go through this again. Now do this 6 times, pick up all that. Hit the bottom again. 6 minus 3 is 3. Go through this 1 time, hit this, pick up 3 nectar, hit the bottom again. 3 minus 3 is 0. Wait a minute. 0 is not in between these, and I'm done. Ta-da! Here we are. Counter variable twice to solve this puzzle. Use it twice. Okay, let's just start. I know I need to move down. And then what? I'm going to want to get nectar right there. Now I'm going to move down 2. Get how many nectars? 2. Then what? Well, I'm going to move down 3. And get 3 nectar. 1, 3. So, now I've already used 13 blocks. So where could I make this better? I can definitely use loops here. What am I counting by? 1, 2, 3. Well, I'm only going up by 1, aren't I? So, okay, that's pretty easy. Counter 1, 2. How high do I need to get? Well, the most I have down here is 3. So I'm going to say 1 to 3 maybe, and I'll count up by 1. Okay? Now, for this, the first one, I'm only going to need to go forward once and get nectar once, right? The second one, though, I'm going to need to go forward how many times? 2 times, right? Once, get 1 nectar, cha. Now, I hit the bottom of this. Counter was just 1, so counter was 1. 1 plus 1 is 2. Counter is now 2. I'll move forward 1 time, but we have a problem. I need to move forward again. So to tell the computer that I need to move forward again, right, because I need to move forward twice, well, perfect. Guess what already equals 2? Counter, because we're on our second one. So now I can just grab this guy here, because it already is going to be equal to 2 this time around, and say, oh, yeah, I actually want to move forward counter times. Now let's see. So now I'll counter when we start, counter from 1 to 3. So counter is 1. Go ahead and start. Repeat 1 time. Move forward. I'll move forward once. I'll get 1 nectar. I'll hit the bottom. Counter is counted up by 1. So 1 plus 1 is 2. So now I move forward once. I hit the bottom. Counter is now 2, right? So in this inner loop, I can do it again. Now I'll get 1 nectar, but we have a problem. I just left nectar there. Well, thankfully, we can use this loop again. Now, I'll do this twice, I'll do this twice. We'll hit the bottom with counter being 2. We'll add 1 to it. Counter's now 3. I'll move forward 3 times. I'll get 3 nectar. And then at 3, we're done, so we drop below the loop. Perfect. All right, now let's combine the counter variable with the math block. How can you use the counter variable to navigate this garden with the fewest number of blocks possible? My goodness. So I can see it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. So let's go ahead and turn left, forward, and then what? Get nectar. How many times am I get nectar? 3, 6, 9. So it goes up by 3 each time. That's going to be a big clue to me right there. So I'm going to head over here and say I'm going to start with 3, and I'm going to go to 15. And then each time, 3 to 6, we're going up by 3 each time. Cool. And now, ooh, this is cool. We have a math block. I am debating. So we could also just multiply this by 3. There's a few correct answers for this, I could tell you right away. 1, 2, 5, and I'm going to go up by 1. And the reason I'm doing this 1 to 5 is because that's 1 step. Then what? 2 steps. Then how many? 1, 2, 3 steps. Then what? 4 steps. Then what? 5 steps. So 1 to 5 go up by 1. And then I can go ahead, guys. And what we can do now is, let's think about this. I can turn left, okay, and then move forward. Now the first time I'm only going to need 1 step. Turn left, move forward. But now what? Well, I'll go up by 1, so counter's now 2. I'll turn left, but I need to move forward twice. Well, counter's 2. Thankfully. So now that we have that, I can go ahead and use repeat counter times, because counter will be set to 2. And the first time counter's 1, so we'll only go forward once, but now we'll go forward twice here, because counter's 2, then counter goes up to 3. So that will get us all the way around. The issue is, obviously, we need to get this nectar. So what else can I do to get all that nectar? Let me grab another repeat. And this is where we'll hit a problem. Because counter is only going to be 1, right? I decided to set it to the amount of steps. There's 3, though, here. So what I can do is use our math block. And I could pull out counter, drop it here, do this. And so now, every time, the first time's 1 step in 3, the second time's 2 steps in 6, 3 steps in 9. So what if I were to multiply this by 3? Actions. So now, counter times 3, if every single time I multiply it by 3, well, we'll go 1 step, and then we'll be able to get this enough times. This is going to work. I want to show you one other way. This is correct, but you could also say like Mr. Kaiser. Okay, but also, replay, you could also do it this way. Say you wanted to do it the original way I was saying. We could totally do, and this is what's so great about code, it's more than one way to get it correct. You could totally do 3 to 15, right? You see that nectar there, and then you're like, I'm going to go up by 3. 100% right. You can absolutely do this. And then, since you're starting with 3 and this nectar's 3, you would want to get nectar counter times, but then for moving, you would want to do counter divided by 3. Same deal. I love code. There's more than one way to be correct. Victory! For the challenge. Alright. Take what you learned about for loops, try to solve the puzzle. So I'm just going to start throwing code down and see where I get. 1, 7. So that's 7, and that's 15. Interesting, that's double. So then how many steps? 1 step, 2 step, 3 step, 4 step, 5 steps. So that's 5 steps, and that's 10. 1 step, 2 step, 3 steps, and that's 6. 1 step, and that's 2. Well, if you then every time it's twice the amount of steps we took is how much nectar. Let me see what we have here. I'm going to start with 7 steps, because like 7 steps, we move 5 steps, we move 3 steps, we move 1. So I'll do 7 to 1, and I'm going to count by 2. Now there's another way to do this. I could have said, 14, right, to 2? That would work as well. 14 to 2. And then I would move by dividing by 2. Okay, but let's see. So this is good. Now I need a loop. How many times do I want to move? I need to move counter number of times forward. And then what? Well, then I'll be here, so I'm going to need to do another loop. And how many times? Well, math, counter. And what? All right. And this should get me all the way there, because I start with 7. I'll move all the way down to here 7 times. I then go here. 7 times 2 is 14. 14 times I get nectar, hit the bottom. Now I was at 7. If I'm counting by 2 towards 1, that's now 5. I move 5 times. Then I would do this. 5 times 2 is 10, so get 10 nectar. Oh, I forgot to turn. Rats. Okay, well that's important. Awesome. Alright,